views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Wow. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I want to welcome you to the Dr. Pat Show. Also, I want to welcome you to Transformation Talk Radio and to soon to be launched transformationradio.fm as part of what we've said yes to in this world. That's what today's show's about. You know, this is what today's show's about. I'm so thrilled to be introducing all of you to Jason Gregory here in a hot second. One of the books we're going to be talking with him about, but we're probably going to talk about other stuff too. Enlightenment Now, Liberation is Your True Nature. And for those of you out there that are thinking, here we go again, she's going to give away copies of the book. You bet we're going to give them away. 3 copies today, thanks to the generosity and pay it forward of Jason. For many of you, I'll tell you who Jason is in a minute, but let me just say a bit. Hey, Benny.
Hey, Pat, how you doing?
Did I make you nervous with my little Skype message I sent to you earlier about a potential guest we may be having this week?
I think it's fantastic. That's up to you if you want to reveal the information, or they can wait until Thursday.
Benny I'll tell you how we'll reveal it, Benny, if you want to.
Okay.
Why don't we play some of her music throughout the show?
I can do that.
Boom. Hey, everybody. Today, I love this, and I love what Jason's doing. You know, you ever think about how do folks get to show up in life and be who they are? I think about that for me. I ask myself that question every day. I'm like, what am I doing? How am I doing it? I'm talking to who? Jason Gregory, this amazing spiritual philosopher, independent scholar, writer, teacher, specializing in the fields of what? Eastern philosophy. Do I get to say that today? Do I get to talk with him about Western esotericism? How do you even say that word? Was that like a word? Did I even get that right? But here's what I do. I get to second guess myself, and I get to say, oh my gosh, look at who I'm talking with. Somebody that totally gets psychology, that understands ancient civilizations. He is a traveler. He travels the world. I don't know his birthday. I would have to guess he's kind of like me, maybe a Sagittarius. I'm not really sure. But here he is. He's lived in Asia. He's written books. He's developed and created documentaries and movies. And what is it about this that he has discovered and learned? You know what I love about this? You know why we get to talk with Jason today, Benny? Here's why. Because if this were Jason just hanging out, having a great old time and deciding, I'm just going to keep all this stuff to myself. You know, maybe I'll write a book. Maybe I'll create a documentary. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll talk about the science and practice of humility. Oh, wait, maybe I'll write about it. Maybe I'll even talk about what a cult classic. Of course, I'm familiar. Way of the Weirdo. I think I'm in that. And, you know, what is it about this that has somebody like Jason at some point in time in his life, maybe at birth, I don't know, we're going to find out, shows up and says, I'm going to share this with the world. I'm going to be a contributor of conversations to create a better world, a contributor, conversations to create a better world. That is all of him. And everything I've said, he is that and more than that. Jason, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be on, Pat. Thanks for I love the intro. That was beautiful. And yeah, good. Nice to meet you too, Benny. So
Okay, so we want to know: Are we in the book? Are we in Way of the Weirdo? Do you think maybe we're in there a little bit?
I think definitely the book is definitely about you and Benny. I think definitely. Maybe I pop in there a little bit.
Maybe. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us here today. And certainly, I've read the book, and I've got a lot of things to talk with you about. But before I do, let's talk about a question that I've been asking people for 14 years. And as a matter of fact, this guest that we're going to play her music today through the show, I've even asked her this question, and it's an important one for me. Given everything I've said about you, all of the things you've done, what are some of the challenges? What are some of the obstacles, Jason, that you have had to overcome to bring you to this very moment?
To this very moment, there's been, Pat, I could fill a book. I could fill a book with all the obstacles. Just for me, it was more about trusting where especially my path in life is going. And I know that's kind of a cliche that a lot of authors and teachers speak about, but especially when I started traveling and when I got married and so forth and so on, there was a lot of trust. I had to change quickly. A lot of the times I was put in unfamiliar environments, and being an Australian kid thrown into places like India, and you're living in places like that, and you're studying with a lot of great people and learning a lot of different things. You learn a lot of you come across obstacles, but for me it was just mainly trusting my path and also embracing uncomfortability as well. Like we are taught in our culture, as we all know, is we always striving to be comfortable and this and that, but to embrace challenges and to step into your comfort zone is actually where life really begins. That's what I've found out for myself anyway in the last 10 years. But just embracing those, we could call them obstacles, but I embrace now that when I'm in a situation of uncomfortability, or when there's a challenge that I think is insurmountable, but I give it a go anyway. And usually, as you probably know, Pat, things most of the time work themselves out. So, challenges, it's kind of, I embrace obstacles these days. I don't think that there is a place I don't think there's a place of Elysium, as people would say, like an obstacle is land,
Yeah, I don't think there's a place as Elysium either. I mean, I think sometimes we wish there were. We wish there were that place. I know, like when I did my homeless gig, I didn't know about Elysium, but I kind of thinking, well, wait a minute, maybe if not Elysium, okay, how about a new version of Paradise? But what you're bringing to the table, though, is so important for the time we're living now. In this idea of enlightenment now, liberation is your true nature. This is of course it's a book, but it's also an energy. It's also a force field from where I sit. Why now? Why this now? What is it that, either tapped you on the shoulder or hit you with a 4x4 that said, this is the message I got to be sharing right now?
Yeah, good question. Well, basically when I the 10 years or so that I've been in Asia and studying a lot of Eastern wisdom, mixed with a lot of Western philosophy, I basically started to understand the deeper mechanics, you could say, of Eastern thought and how that benefits the way we are in the world in the modern day. And even if we look in the East, the East has lost a lot of its traditional way of thinking. It's taken on more of a Western view of the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of benefits from going back to more of the ancient Eastern philosophical views that can change, that can help the world progress in a more peaceful manner, and also can transform the individual, in an intelligent way. So for me, the idea of enlightenment now, this book, came to me. It took many years, obviously, to come together, but it was something that was gestating in me for a while, and I knew of its importance for the world in the modern day, because a lot of people, as we all know, Pat, is that we're all running here and there, trying to be successful, trying to do this and that, trying to stand on the shoulders of others, to stand above the crowd and be somebody special. But there's also a humility and trying not to do that, but just to recognize where your life is at that moment and looking within yourself to see, the deeper essence of your own being, as opposed to, what you can do in the world. I can go and write a book and so forth and so on, but have I really become what I'm speaking about? Do I understand it fully? This is the work for all of us, like anyone can be a great entrepreneur or can do amazing things, can achieve amazing feats. But how is their perception of the world? And that's what enlightenment now is really about. It's about changing the view, changing people's understanding that, especially from an Eastern view, that we are already what we've been seeking. What we've been seeking in life is already deep within us. But we've always been told to go out there and seek it. And in a lot of cases, a lot of suffering happens from that, you and I are going to talk about a lot. But one of the things that seems to really baffle people along the way to becoming themselves is this idea of East versus West. So the question that I'd love to talk about when we come back, there's a ton of them. Enlightenment now, liberation is your true nature. Jason Gregory here today. When we come back, we're going to make sure you have Jason's website, get a copy of the book, and we're going to give a copy of the book away. But, in the world of West versus East, East and West, is it even possible to be Switzerland? Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the show.
Treading water, killing time, inspiration hard to find. Never noticed.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show, talk radio to thrive by. I am so thrilled to be talking to all of you. We have got talk radio for all of us. Are you ready and willing and able to accept all of the abundance you can muster up in your life? Check us out, the drpatshow.com, transformationtalkradio.com, transformationradio.fm.
Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light, from author and healer Francine Vale, is available now. Through Francine's life story, we learn how imperative it is to love one another. Once this simple truth is learned, peace on earth will prevail. Song of the Heart is a life lived and a story told for this purpose. To learn more about Francine and her amazing gifts, or to order your copy of the book today, visit angelsandlightbeings.com.
Are you ready to thread your life with intuition? Intuit Apparel can help you do just that. This is not just about a piece of clothing. This is about a movement, an awakening, and staying centered in life. Your life. Intuitive and host of the radio show Get Into It, Lynn Brown, was given this image with the intention of a clothing line designed to represent the essence of life itself. Visit intuitapparel.com now and wear your intuition with pride.
Holistic Medical Center is where you find it all. A healthy space with doctors who care, see, and listen to the whole you. Hi, this is Dr. Darvish. If you have not found an answer to your chronic symptoms, you will find answers here at Holistic Medical Center. Our doctors find the root cause of your symptoms and guide your body towards healing naturally. We transform lives from within. Visit drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
A word of caution: if you prefer the status quo and you are not interested in improving every aspect of your life, this book will trigger the shift out of you. The Truth is Funny, Shift Happens is available now. Author Colette Steffen brings the powerful knowledge and life-changing energy and empowerment from the radio airwaves to the pages of her new book. To get your copy in paperback or ebook, visit thetruthisfunny.com today.
Sky Siegel co-hosts one of today's most popular psychic shows, Angels and Answers with Artie Hoffman, as she communicates healing messages from the spirit world. These messages can be astounding, enlightening, and life-changing. Born with the God-given talent of inner guidance and the amazing ability to heal, Sky has healed thousands of people. Schedule a reading with Sky now. Call 908-500-1474 and visit skyofangels.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to the Dr. Pat Show. Welcome back to Transformation Talk Radio. Oh, my gosh, you guys, thank you for your text messages. I don't even know how I'm getting it. How did you guys get my cell phone? That's what I want to know. That has got to be a mystery to me, but I'm glad you got it. I'm going to try to get your questions on here for Jason. Somehow I got to figure out how we get these questions into our new technology. Thank you for what you're asking today. Before we jump ahead and get back into the conversation, would you mind, Jason, taking a moment? First of all, tell folks how they can find out more about you. Also, tell them how they can get a copy of the book. We always want to know that. And then anything else you might be up to, okay?
Okay, no problem. Yeah. If anyone wants to get in contact with me, they can just go to my website, jasongregory.org. On my social media, Twitter, it's Jason Gregory 33, and on Facebook, it's One World Within. Facebook.com One World Within. And as for anything coming up in the future, I've got a tour actually of India coming up next week and also next year, and I should be lecturing in the US sometime next year about this book, and also I have another book coming out next year. So a lot of things on the horizon.
Oh, I love it. I know we're going to talk about, I just got another question before we go to this. Yeah, I do hear voices. I totally am channeled when I do radio. I know I am. But I mean, did you ever imagine yourself in this life? Would you mind sharing that before we talk about East versus West? Did you imagine yourself here, Jason?
No, not at all, actually.
Yeah, me either.
To be honest, like my upbringing was very, standard. It was middle class family in Australia. Wasn't brought up in a spiritual family at all. My mother and father were hardworking people, but it was very normal life. And then to where I am now, like when I left home when I was 19 to live and work in Melbourne in Australia, I just had no thought that I would be doing what I'm doing. In say, what is this now, 16 years later than that, but it just sort of happened. I don't know why. I left Australia with my wife, and we just said we were going traveling for a year, and then now it's like 7-8 years later, and I don't know if you'd call it still traveling, but we're doing our thing, So yeah, it's one of those things, Pat, and you would probably understand this. You don't really intentionally seek out to do these things in your life. They just sort of happen and they fall into your plate, and you just follow what you're attracted to, and then it sort of, everything takes care of itself after that.
Well, I love this because I am always amazed when I think about how we show up spontaneously in the place we are. And then sometimes I'm not sure that we get there spontaneously, but you're going to share that today. I wanted to talk about a little bit. There's so much said about East versus West, but I've never really heard it talked about in a kind of endearing way. I've always heard it talk about in this almost like, this one is the way you go, don't go this way. Let's take a look at Eastern philosophy and let's really overshadow this part of this with this stuff. I just want to hear from your point of view. There's so many amazing things you've discovered. It's almost like it is an integration of the best of both. You want to talk about that? Do you mind talking about that for a little bit?
Yeah, no problem. I like what you said when you mentioned the word integration, and I think that's I think that's the pinnacle of what's happening at the moment, because, even if someone, say, if they want to focus just on Eastern philosophy, and if it's just that, like what you said, this is the be all and end all, this is better than anything the West can provide, there can be a lot of blind spots in that. And likewise, if you followed Western philosophy or a particular practice or method, but what we're seeing these days, especially like in the schools of integral psychology, integral spirituality, is kind of like the merging between Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. So they both sort of complement each other, and when you integrate those systems, it's kind of more of a, you could say, more of a holistic system for the modern world. That doesn't mean the psychology of the East and the philosophy of the West is flawed. I've just mentioned it just because that's one of the main models out there, the integral model.
Yes.
But when we talk about, West is best or East is the best, this is too black and white, I believe, and especially from what I've studied, and even if you go back in back thousands of years ago, if you go back to the evolution of Greece and China, both civilizations are different. When you look at Greece, for example, there was much smaller communities along the Mediterranean who had to who lived in much smaller communities. So a lot of the tasks were more individualistic. So cognitively in the West, because Greece was kind of like the birth of Western civilization, cognitively the West and Europe began to develop more individualistically. And it was just the way nature, that was what nature provided for us at that time. But then when we go over into China, in the Yellow River Valley area, you have you have much larger communities back in the same epoch, and the main source of food was rice. So when you got you can't. If it was just you and I, Pat, we could not cultivate rice. You and I'd be starving, because rice cultivation is heavy labor and it takes quite a lot of people. What happened over time in China was they had much more of a holistic view, because they had much more of a communal view, and this is why this influenced such philosophies as Taoism in China. That doesn't mean that that holistic view, or that collective view, I should say, is better than the individualistic view. What we see now is the merging of individualism and collectivism, or individuality and holism, and this is what I think this integral spirituality that's happening now is the integration of both of those, and that's what's contributing to much more sane society, and also not just people striving for enlightenment, but striving also to be spiritually mature, to have authentic relationships, to have moral intelligence, to have social intelligence, emotional intelligence, not just cognitive intelligence. So this is very important, I believe. And that's one thing a lot of people forget when they look at East and West. They forget to have a look at how environment influenced both cultures, and that's why I use sort of Greece and China as kind of the markers there. Even though we could look at India in that same context as well.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're talking about here is, it's really fascinating when we step back for a few minutes and we really take a look. Folks have asked me questions about the United States, and I always am shocked a little bit when they start to talk about East, they start to talk about West, as if all of a sudden the indigenous people that live here and lived here before we got here don't exist today. And the rituals and the spirituality of the indigenous people of the United States, just if we stay in the United States for a minute, let alone my relatives that would like me to go down to South America and say, you always leave us out down here, down in Peru and Brazil, how dare you leave us out? This the home of ayahuasca here. This the home of ayahuasca. So, for me, I have to remember. I have to put my little rememberer on sometimes, that we live in such an amazing world, right, Jason? Just the way you described it. Where, isn't it brilliant that we can choose this? And that, it's like shopping. You can mix and match.
Exactly. And I think that's where we're at, Pat. We're mixing and matching at the moment, and we're learning from, so many, like what you said with the Native Americans, and we're learning so much from each other and from the past and from the present. And I can use Australia as an example that a lot of people in Australia are missing out on a lot of the richness of the Aboriginal cultures in Australia, because since the white man appeared in Australia, they chose not to include the history of the Aboriginals in the history books. So, but if you look into certain cultures like this, and you, like you said, you mix and match, and you can benefit so much from everybody, and it contributes to your own evolution and your own growth. So why not dabble here and there,
I think so. And, one of the things that we're going to talk about when we come back, which I love, Jason does such a great job of this, enlightenment, nature or nurture. We're going to talk about that when we come back. But before we do, I'd love to give a copy of the book away. 1-800-930-2819. We actually have 3 copies, but let's go ahead and do it this way. 1-800-930-2819. We'll give away a first copy of the book. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Enlightenment Now, which is the book by Jason Gregory, joining me here today. Teacher, speaker, somebody that just figured this out a lot earlier in life than I did. But what is it about the journey that helps us to discover enlightenment, something that everyone on the planet has a birthright to? Stay tuned. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Leslie Fontaine, and my show is Sheer Alchemy on TransformationTalkRadio.com. When we're bogged down with our emotions, the hardships that plague us in our relationships, at work, our finances, we literally can't see the higher plane where we could be operating from. Tune in to Leslie Fontaine, Sheer Alchemy on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
If you're one of the millions of Americans suffering from anxiety, you probably know how powerless and out of control this emotion can make you feel. This is why it is so important to remember that anxiety is created by your mind, which means that you can learn to use your mind to uncreate it. Hello, my name is Dr. Friedman Schaub. My award-winning book, The Fear and Anxiety Solution, provides you with a step-by-step breakthrough process to understand and resolve the root causes of your anxiety and build a solid foundation of confidence and inner peace. If you're ready to take your power back, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com. That's thefearandanxietysolution.com, or call 866-903-6463. That's 866-903-MIND.
Brand consultant Jen Morgan is here with Radically Distinct Radio to help you take control of your future and maximize your brand's power to produce results. Whether you're an individual trying to reinvent yourself and launch a new venture, or you're an executive trying to reposition your company to modernize your sales and marketing programs, Jen Morgan and the RAD method empower you to play to your strengths and show up in the world as your most powerful brand. To learn more, go to jenmorgan.com. That's Jen with 2 N's, Morgan.com, or call 206-972-5366.
Would you like to experience life-transforming adventures in personal expansion and world service? If you do, tune in to learn about magical innate abilities that you can develop and use to make your dreams come true. Joy Elaine is author of the Joy Chronicles, and she's inviting you and millions of others to join her in working with galactic masters, angels, and the Ashtar Command as they assist humanity and planet Earth to achieve their ultimate destination of ascension. For more information about this upcoming event and broadcast, visit joyelaine.com. That's joy, ELAINE.com.
What if your body and mind were the compasses to the secrets, mysteries, and magic of life? Glenna Rice, co-host of The Questionable Parent, is inviting you to access all that is possible. Glenna is a 10-year certified veteran Access Consciousness facilitator who offers an amazing variety of life-changing classes and workshops. Work with Glenna from anywhere, with teleclasses and workshops all over the globe. To learn more and see Glenna's current schedule of events, classes, and workshops, visit glennarice.com.
Oh, there you go. So that's the clue. Thursday, we're waiting to hear. Yes. Now, can you guess who our guest is going to be on Thursday? By that clue?
Yeah,
Australia,
for sure.
Singer.
Do I say it or
Yes. Go ahead.
Olivia Newton-John.
There you win. She's got a brand new CD out. She's got some, I have to just say a little bit, let's just talk about this because it is related to the title. She did a CD a number of years ago, and Benny and I got to interview her then. And the CD is called Grace and Gratitude. And I got to tell you, Jason, it's one of the most beautiful and still in my top 10 all favorite CDs. It is stellar. And now she's got a new one coming out and all sorts of things. But, this is the deal, right? I mean, you and I are getting ready to talk about this now. Before we do, 1-800-930-2819. We're going to keep giving copies of the book away for those of you out there. Enlightenment Now, Liberation is Your True Nature. I also want to make sure, again, let's give out your website, Jason. Tell folks how they can get a copy of the book as well.
If you want to get in contact with me, just go to jasongregory.org. And to get a copy of the book, you can go to my website, or you can go to innertraditions.com, or you can find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any online store. So
awesome. And, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about Olivia Newton-John, and we look at her life, and, people know her mostly through the movie, through the theater. But, I'm reading your book, and I get to the chapter, Enlightenment. And before the break, I said, enlightenment, is it nature or is it nurture? And I love first of all, I love the book, but I love what you've written here, because me, a girl from the Bronx, New York, no, we were talking about this during a break. No, I never realized and never envisioned, I never thought in a million years that I'd be here talking with you. Someone who is a best-selling author, travels the world, and has written this book about enlightenment. No, I didn't. But when I did arrive in 2003 and I got behind the mic, it was like breathing. Look at Olivia Newton-John. Look at you. People know her from one end of the spectrum. But underneath all of that, is it possible, as you talk about in the book, is enlightenment available to everyone? Jason, is it available to everyone?
Oh, definitely. And actually, if we look at it from especially the Eastern perspective, it's not only available to all of us, it's actually our true nature. It's just been eclipsed by our social conditioning and our, what we could say is not really just our ego or our persona system, but basically our overbelief in that. So we kind of, so we believe so much in, you could say, our ego, but we don't know what's beneath that, what's deeper than that, what's the deep down essence of all of us. And when we were born as an aspect of nature, when we were a child, we had not had the conditioning of the social structure, the religious structure, or whatever structure it is upon us. And then, as a child, you are completely free. It doesn't mean that that's a state of enlightenment. It means that that's that essence of enlightenment that still dwells within us. This is why in the Eastern tradition they say, in some sense, you have to have the mind of a child, meaning that that sort of that innocence, that playfulness, that aspect of ourselves that is not stuck with opinions and beliefs and this and that and black and white and so forth and so on. So, this is why the subtitle of the book is "Liberation is Your True Nature," because we are all striving for liberation or freedom in this life deep down, I believe, and that liberation, which we could call enlightenment, which is that eternal aspect within our consciousness that is identical with the eternity of the universe, is readily available to any of us if we are engaged in some sort of self work or even just reorientating our focus to within ourselves and to place our attention more within our own mind instead of on external objects and the gravitational pull of the external world and our opinions that usually are projected upon that. So, I think, not that I think, when I look at it from the East and all of the literature and even doing the inner cultivation myself and being around many teachers and students and so forth and so on, I think I believe that enlightenment is our true nature. It's just, what are we willing to do to look within to recognize that? Are we going to invest more into that, or are we going to invest more into stocks and into new suits and to new makeup, or are we going to invest more into the inner world? So
yeah, I love this, and I love this chapter and the way you talk about it for a lot of reasons. And one of the things I wanted to kind of say to you about it is that someone asked me a question. Remember, I was telling you I was interviewed on a show not too long ago, and they asked me a question about spirituality. And, the question was about spirituality and spiritual practices, and you talk about it in the book. And I said, for me, what I've discovered that spirituality is not something I do. It's something I am. And, and of course, what the follow-up question is, when did you discover that? I said, I strive to discover it every minute of every day. And you have a very interesting way that you talk about this, which I've not heard before. And I wonder if we could talk about it. One of the things you say in the book is you say, when one realizes one's own imbalances, one becomes more attracted to spiritual practices because they are thought of as medicine for our relative ills. And then you go on and talk about that. And I thought, wow, I so related to that, because I was telling you about 2004 and getting really, really sick. And I was like, I got to be more spiritual. I got to be more. And then I got stressed out because I figured, oh my God, I got sick because I wasn't spiritual enough or something. I don't know. I just know my head felt like it was going to explode. I would just love for you to talk about your perspective on this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. And I've had many experiences like yours as well, Pat. It's I think with everything, a lot of people, because we choose a lot of pain-numbing solutions, right, for anything in life. So, if someone has had a psychological problem, they might turn to alcohol or drugs or something of that nature to try and numb their own pain, their own psychological pain. So same with spirituality. People use spirituality as a crutch in some sense. They'll say, like what you said, I've got to be more spiritual. I've got to do this and that. I'm going to meditate for 10 hours today to get rid of this past experience and so forth and so on. And in some sense, that doesn't alleviate the problem, because the intention itself is not in its right place, I don't think, because it's using it as a pain-numbing solution. And this is not really what spirituality is. It's like what you said. Spirituality is something that you are every day. It's kind of a recognition or a feeling or a sense within your own mind of a deeper reality. And I don't know, in a sense, how you can induce that or cultivate that. I'm not going to say meditation and that or other spiritual practices can't clear the path for that. But the problem is that when our meditative practices and that are used as a tool of postponement. So we begin to postpone our own liberation, our own enlightenment, our own sense of spirituality. So, a lot of people say, I'm going to do a Vipassana course, and they do one Vipassana course, which is 10 days, and they go, well, I'm just going to do a Superman course of 30 days. And it's like, you don't have to go into extremist mentality to try and induce spirituality. It's already your own nature. Those sort of things, and I know that this may differ with different archetypes, but if you need to do a 30-day Vipassana course, then, there might be a lot of things psychologically wrong with you. I don't think you need to do that. If you do one, you should have done enough meditation, enough not speaking for 10 days, eating light meals, to realize deeper and subtler realities within yourself that you should be able to take out then into the world. This is like Joseph Campbell's idea of bringing back the boon. So, you go on the journey and then you bring back the boon, what you've sort of discovered within yourself. And you begin to live that every day then. It's not something that you have to continually say, I'm going to be spiritual this day, and I'm not, or I'm going to even be more spiritual, more extremist. It's recognizing that, there's nothing wrong with meditative practices, but it needs to be more like Zen Master Shunryu Suzuki explained. Like, his students in California, when he had arrived in Japan, they said, because in Zen there's a focus obviously on that nirvana, the enlightened mind is already within us. So we have always been in a state of nirvana according to Zen, but we have just sort of hypnotized into the surface reality of the mind. So they questioned to him, so, why do you meditate for? They asked Shunryu Suzuki, and he said, we don't meditate to get anything or get anywhere. We meditate because that's what Buddhas do. So it's like, any other job. A mechanic fixes cars because that's what a mechanic does. And likewise with human beings, Shunryo's point is that you meditate or you do any spiritual practice not to get anything, but just because that's what human beings do. That's what Buddhas do. So, I thought that was a very interesting insight, Yeah,
it is. It is an incredible insight. And guess what? It's like an incredible insight that is directly related to the times we live in. It's funny, during one of these interviews, I was asked a question after I made it really clear I'm really not here to talk about politics, not politics here, not politics abroad. That's not the nature of my show. I mean, I will talk about what's important in the world and what I value and what I think this very sophisticated, smart, amazing listenership. They're amazing. They're the best listeners on the planet, by the way. I will talk about the things that, that our listeners want to hear more of, but I really don't want to engage in whatever it is you think you want to engage with me in. And, even after I said that, we get into the second, segment, and all of a sudden I get a question about one of the candidates, and I'm not even going to repeat it, but it was a question about, what do you think about so-and-so? And I said, who? And the host said, well, what do you think about so-and-so? And I said, who? And this went on. Jason, if you can imagine you and me having the same conversation, and after about 15 times of me saying who, he finally got it, right?
Yeah.
Because we get to choose in this world, and this is really part of the conversation. We get to choose in what direction do we want to put our hearts. And I want to talk with you about that when we come back. What is it about our daily lives that would have us believe, and me as well, if you'd have said to me when I'm sitting there homeless, if you'd have said to me, Pat, I want you to point your heart into the direction of enlightenment, right? I'm sitting in my car, have no gas, have no food, have no money. And if I'd have heard, Pat, but I heard something else that day. And was it the same thing? Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back.
What is a brilliant culture? And how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you design a culture that is authentic, innovative, and successful. Learn how to create change with Cultural Brilliance Radio, the DNA of organizational excellence, and Claudette Rowley. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit ClaudetteRowley.com.
Artie Hoffman is the hottest psychic with the warmest heart and the host of the hit show Angels and Answers. A renowned psychic, medium, spiritual life coach, and an entertaining motivational speaker, Artie has helped over 15,000 people with his amazing intuitive gifts, his passion, and his humor. Call 877-ANGEL-02 to schedule a personal reading or to have your own psychic Artie party. That's 877-ANGEL-02. And visit ArtieHoffman.com and Angels and Answers on Facebook.
The Earth is an ever-changing being. Goddess Light Shamanic Healer Bree Gibbs guides us through the ascending worlds and brings forth knowledge and truth. As a light creator, she is here to provide new information needed at this time in our evolution. Join Bree as she shares messages from guides, spirits, ascended masters, goddesses, and others. Tune in Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific for the Silver Gaia Show and live the authentic life.
How confident do you feel about your retirement? Ask Ameriprise financial advisor Jeff Packman about the exclusive Confident Retirement Approach. Together, you and Jeff can break down retirement planning step by step to get to the real answers you need. Call Jeff Packman, financial advisor, today at 425-453-0272. Office is located at 601 108th Avenue Northeast, Suite 1800 in Bellevue, Washington, 98004. The Confident Retirement Approach is not a guarantee of future financial results. Investment advisory products and services are made available through Ameriprise Financial Services Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Ameriprise Financial Services Incorporated, member of FINRA and SIPC.
Beyond being this amazing neurologist, inventor, author, Dr. Dan Cohen has been called to look at technology and look at personal and spiritual development and merge these together. As technology uses the healing and psychospiritual effects of synchronized sounds, vibrations, electromagnetic fields, and how that interacts with us in our nervous system in what we're calling the Soltec chair.
The Soltec Lounge induces profound levels of relaxation that transition over time into deep meditative states. The synchronized sound, vibration, and magnetic field induce these states. The subject doesn't have to work at it.
To learn more, go to soltecwellbeing.com. That's SOLTEC Wellbeing.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in, turning us on. Thank you for what you do. 1-800-930-2819. I do remember, I do know Benny said that we had a little faux pas with our phones here. So yes, please call back. We'd love to give you a copy of the book. 1-800-930-2819. And Jason, one more time. Give people your website information, and then we're going to talk about what I like to talk about. Yeah. Spirituality or not. Yeah. How can people find out more about you?
Okay. All you have to do is visit my website at jasongregory.org. And if you want a copy of my book, you can go to innertraditions.com or any online stores such as Amazon. And you can connect with me on Twitter at jasongregory33. And you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/oneworldwithin.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Before the break, we were kind of talking, and then during the break, we were talking. I am one of these believers that what I put my attention on will expand. And I'm not talking about putting my attention on something to an obsession. There is what I'm discovering in life. There is the connection between doing being and knowing. And I don't know what it is yet. But you talk about enlightened attunement, and I would love for you to chat about that for a minute, because there are many, many things that we have discovered in science and spirituality, many, many things we've discovered in the way we get to move from there to universal consciousness, and I would love for you to talk about that.
Excellent. Love this topic. Enlightened attunement is basically the ability, you could say, to refine your consciousness, to crowd out or to eliminate a lot of the unnecessary noise that we have bouncing around in our skull most of the time. So, a lot of people call this the stream of consciousness, and the stream of consciousness is basically all of that information, that flux that is continually flowing through our mind. And we usually unconsciously identify with a lot of it, and then that becomes sort of our way of being, our persona in the world, and so forth and so on. So enlightened attunement, or attuning your consciousness to higher states, is about putting your attention, especially putting your attention deep within yourself, and focusing on certain aspects of your life that actually are meaningful. So, for example, if you're concentrating on enlightenment, you'll be focusing on everything that's going to help you evolve psychologically and spiritually, and that also means to do that, if you're going to enter big, what they would call big mind states in Buddhism, for example, if you're going to enter a big mind state, which is kind of like the idea of the ultimate reality of Brahman in Hinduism, is you've got to get away from all of the dramas in the world that kind of pull your attention here and there and fragment your focus, fragment your consciousness and your mind. So then you have to bring into question, what's dragging your attention? Is a political situation trying to suck your energy and suck your attention into whatever it's doing? Is there some sort of social drama that is pulling your attention into that? Can you, in a sense, elevate your perception out of those, see them for what they are, but begin to merge your consciousness with something much higher than that? And that's always been the process in the East, is about attuning your consciousness to that higher aspect, that actually, that source of the universe that is within in everything, even the drama. So it's about, and we can do this. There's certain ways to do this. You can do this by refining not only your consciousness, but your mind as well, like watching what, being mindful of what you put in through your sensory apparatuses, like, for example, your eyes and your ears. Being conscious about what you're putting in through your eyes and your ears. Are you listening constantly to Fox News? How is that going to help to attune your consciousness to a higher level? It's not going to. It's going to keep your consciousness in a state of separatism. It's going to keep your consciousness in a state of thinking that the world is bad and some things are good. And, good and bad are usually subjective. So we have to be very mindful of, even if what we put in our mouth, we have to be mindful, we have to be conscious of, because that's going to affect also your state of consciousness. So, but especially with the eyes and the ears, this is very important. So if you want to develop wisdom or develop more of a clear state of perception, then you should be probably tending toward reading some more wise literature, or having more fruitful conversations with people, meditating more maybe. And this is all what enlightened attunement is about. So, that's the great work for all of us.
Well, it's interesting. We know this, and let's talk about science for a minute. We have 1 minute left. We know that the scientists of the world, and I can point to Einstein, are very, very clear, although kind of mysterious, about how they got to know what they got to know. But you've really laid it out quite beautifully in your book, Jason. I want to thank you very much. And I want to ask you one last question. And of course, thank you for a fabulous, fabulous show today. And yes, we did get the confirmation for Olivia Newton-John, 11 o'clock on Thursday. What's your personal message? What would you like to leave us with?
I would say that people don't need to be chasing life here and there, and to think that they're going to reach the pinnacle in their life eventually when they're 40 or after they get their university degree. realize that your life is a process. It's a beautiful process, and once you recognize it's a process, you don't have to be stuck with certain opinions. You don't have to be stuck with thinking that the world is either good or bad. What you can begin to do is enjoy the journey and enjoy the people you meet along the way. And in that process, you'll in letting go of the banks of the river, you'll merge your mind with your heart, and hopefully you'll experience enlightenment in this life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please give out your website again. Thank you for all that you're doing. And again, how can people find out more about you?
Okay, you can find out more about me at jasongregory.org, and you can find my book on all online bookstores or at innertraditions.com. And you can find me on Twitter at jasongregory33, and on my Facebook at facebook.com/oneworldwithin. And I'd like to say also thanks for the interview, Pat. It was great and lovely to meet you, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
I hope we can, because I think you and I were kind of chatting. We could have gone on for 2 hours, because I know I didn't get to all the stuff I wanted to talk with you about. Again, thank you, Jason. Thank you for all that you do. Hey, everybody, we're going to take a short break. We're not done yet. More coming up on Transformation Talk Radio and Dr. Pat Show.
Preceding audio was via a Skype call.